Hi, my name is Dominic Tamaro, and I'm the Vice Chair for Education in the Department of Medicine at the Alpert Medical School at Brown University. And this is one of several modules, almost 20, I think, on financial literacy for physicians who are at the early phases of their careers. What are the questions you need to know, and how can you then advance in your career on good financial footing? And so today's session is on real estate with a particular focus on first-time home buyers. As always, I hope that you find this session informative and a good place to start for getting on your best financial footing.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Lai, and this is Charlie Fang. We're part of the LuxHome team from RE/MAX Real Estate Center. So what we do is we help a lot of first-time home buyers in the greater Boston area, and we teach first-time home buyer classes locally. We help a lot of clients finding a dream home. So we hope that you're going to learn a lot from us today.
Bonnie and Charlie, this is one module in a series of modules to help people who are in their early phases of their careers, mid to late 20s, who might be starting to think about savings, the health of their finances, and one of the topics that always comes up is buying a home. For many people, they've been renting up until this time, and for at least in internal medicine, in a couple of years after they're done, they may be moving to a new place, and the question comes up, should I buy a place or should I rent? So I think that let's get started by you, experienced realtors, going through what questions people should either consider or should ask when they're considering buying a home, condo, etc.
So I would say the first question that usually we'll ask is, are you in a position to buy, right?
Right. So, for that, it's basically everybody is, unique in their own situation, right? And it's personal to their own. So that's why we would have a lender come into play so that the lender can identify the finances of that potential buyer, in terms of savings, your income, your assets, and your credit. And they would take a look at that big picture, right? And then identify, hey, are you in a good spot, good position to potentially get a loan to purchase a property. However, if you can't, then what we would do is we would advise our buyers, hey, maybe you can save down, for more higher down payment, throughout the years, so that when it's time to buy, you have a greater competitive advantage, in the market too. For that home, what we would tell our buyers is that you're not really gonna have a dream home at the very start. If you have a dream budget, you're gonna have a dream home, right? But then in the beginning, it's more so that, hey, it's a stepping stone to potentially that dream home down the line.
And for the interns, the chances for you to be able to buy a home right away is very slim. But let's just say if you're already finishing up your residency and you have a job lined up, there are options for you to actually be buying before your job starts. So, but you need to have an offer letter. So of course you need to be able to qualify for a mortgage, meaning you need to have a job, meaning you need to have money, and that's why everything needs to come in play. And we need to look at that case by case to make sure you are in fact ready. So the second question, right? And now it goes into how long do you see yourself staying in that home that you're gonna purchase, right?
So when you're considering whether someone is ready, or what they're considering, suppose I say, I have a rich uncle and he's gonna give me some money to help me with the down payment. Is that a good idea? Are there any risks there?
Down payment is completely acceptable from, if someone wants to give you inheritance early, just to help you out, all the bank needs to see is that there needs to be a gift letter to source the fund. Make sure it's not a cash in a big suitcase to you, because otherwise that will be money laundering and that's not allowed. So as long as it's like they can source it, then you can use it.
So they want the dream home eventually. The one that they're looking at might not be the dream home. The next question is, how long do they want to stay in the place that they're considering?
So a lot of people will tell us that I only want to move once, I hate moving, so I just want this perfect house. And that's when Charlie and I have to have that hard talk with them and say, do you have a dream budget? Because if you don't, you won't have a dream house. And I think the reason why you see a lot of younger generation people spending thousands and thousands paying for rent to live in Seaport is because they have a very expensive taste. And what they don't realize is, or it's a choice for them. If I have the money today and I have a really good job, I make $250,000 a year. What I have is an income to pay for the month-to-month very nice Seaport for $5,600 a month for a one bedroom. But I cannot afford to buy it for $3.5 million, so I'll just rent. So that will be a personal choice. Of course, if you can afford $5,600 for a one bedroom, you should really think about buying, because when you rent, all that money you will never see again. But when you own, everything goes back into saving, and that's part of your equity. And that's why there's always a choice between, do I want to build especially if we think about retirement, when do you start being more responsible with your money? But younger people, we do see that they just want a gratification of having something very nice today. But that's why we ask people, how long do you see yourself staying in the home? Especially if you don't know how much you like your current job and you don't know how many years you're going to stay at your current position. We often tell our buyers, if you're not going to see yourself staying here at least 3 years, maybe you should just rent. It's because there's a real estate cycle that normally lasts between 7 to 10 years. You don't want to get risk like getting stuck at the buying high and selling low cycle, because if you do buy and sell within 3 years, most chances are you are risking potentially losing money. And that's why we do ask that question. If you don't see yourself staying for 3 years, or if you see yourself staying for 3 years or less, however you don't mind being a landlord, then it might be okay, because that doesn't mean you have to sell within 3 years.
I see. Being a landlord meaning they wouldn't be able to sell when they moved on, they'd have to rent it out.
And that becomes an investment property.
That also depends, how long you want to stay. So from a tax perspective, right, the minimum requirement for you to avoid a capital gains tax is owning the property for at least 2 years, because that will qualify the property to be a primary ownership. Now, you could get up to $250,000 as an individual household for that profit. If you are filing jointly as a married couple, then up to $500,000
Of a gain.
Of a gain, yes. But sometimes you might not be able to stay there for at least 2 years, because for some reason life happens. You might have to move out of state, you have to move out of the country, whatever, right? When you have some of those significant life events that happen, then you'll have to think about the tax bracket that you're going to be in. So there are two types of capital gains tax brackets. You have short term, which is less than 1 year, and you have long term, which is 1 year or longer. Usually the short term capital gains tax rate is much higher than the long term capital gains tax rate.
But the chances of you making $250,000 on your first home within 2 years, unless you're completely renovating a home, normally you don't build that kind of gain or equity like that quickly. And that's why the law is in place to make sure that people are not saying they will buy and live there and basically turning it into a flip. And that's why there's a waiting period.
So if I understand it, if you own the home more than 2 years, let's say 3 years, and at year 3 you sell it, and it's a super hot market, you make $250,000 in profit on that home. So then you're not subjected to capital gains tax.
Correct.
Yes.
And if you're married, you get $500K.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, or shorter duration than that, is viewed by the IRS as an investment, and therefore
Not investment, but more so you have to pay the cap gain.
You have to pay
Got
that.
it. Okay.
You have to pay
Yes.
that extra tax.
And
Okay.
since we're
Yeah.
not CPA, we'll say call your CPA.
Yes. Yeah. Talk to your tax advisor.
Another question that I think people don't realize, tying into what we just talked about, when should I sell? How long should I keep the house? If it is a down market and you're not able to sell the house without a terrible financial loss, what's the reality that people should think about renting?
And I think that's why our next question is, do you want to be a landlord? And a lot of the times when we work with first-time home buyers, doctors or not doctors, we always ask them, maybe keep it in mind that maybe you'll keep this as an investment property. And for sure, yes, you need to see yourself living in this space for, hopefully 5 to 7 years. That's normally the length of the time first-time home buyers stay at their current homes. It's because, at that age, normally life happens. Well, let's just say if it's a down market, right? With the economy that's happening, like everything that's going on, it's realistic to be a little worried. What if 3 years I might have to lose money on my condo? Then that's why we ask you, like, do you think you can rent it out? And especially if you're buying a condo, there are some condos that actually have rental restrictions. And that's why, as your realtor, we actually suggest you to buy homes that does not have that kind of restrictions in case if at that moment you cannot sell. If you don't want to take that massive hit of a loss, you can't control what you can control. And that's why having the flexibility to become a landlord and rent it out instead of selling, it will help you to buy more time to wait until the market to recover, to at least breaking even so you don't have to lose money on it.
As a former residency director, over 3 years in internal medicine residency, residents form really close relationships, and many of them move on together in the same location, either in a relationship or not. But let's say they're graduating the program in Providence, they're doing fellowships in Boston, and they want to go in together to buy something. Is that advisable?
The implication of owning together is that, let's just say it's a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, which actually happens a lot more frequently than just friends. What happened is, let's just say if you bought a condo in Boston, and then one of your friends need to move to Seattle for the job, and all their money is tied up in the house, then if the other buyer, like the other owner, does not have the ability to buy you out, then both of you have to sell. So you're basically destabilizing both parties, or 5 of you. If there's 5 of you, then maybe you can buy each other out. But when that party stops and no one have the ability to buy everyone out, then you have no choice but to sell. But let's just say if you're in a relationship with your partner and your boyfriend, girlfriend, and just not married yet, then that's a little more common when you see a future together. It's just, again, as long as you have the ability to buy each other out, then that's not an issue. But if you're going to be in a committed relationship together and have that intention to own together, that scenario happens a lot more. And there's 2 types of ownership that you can go into a contract with when you purchase a home. You have tenancy in common, where you can just decide, okay, Charlie and I, we're going to own this house 70-30. I'm going to own more of the house. And you get 30% of the share. We're just dating. We're married now. But let's just say if I'm the one with the more down payment and I decided I'm going to take on 70% and Charlie with 30%, when you go into tenancy in common, what's going to happen is, let's just say if something bad happened and Charlie wants to sell his shares for any reason at all, or want to pass it down to his brother, he can do that. So his ownership is independent from mine. So if he wants his brother to take over his shares, or he wants to sell his shares alone, he's allowed to do that. Okay, so that means,
Even if you don't like his brother?
Yeah, I have no choice, because it's up to him to do with what he wants to do with his shares. And for
all
me,
30%,
yes,
all 30%.
And if I want to give my shares to Charlie, and then I can sell it to him, and that's why the tenancy in common makes sense if you are just entering into it with an independent partnership. And then you have joint tenancy, which is what most like husband and wife or partners, or let's just say if I pass away, then the other owner will have my shares. So that's joint tenancy, and that's what most married partners will have.
It's basically a term called survivorship.
Mm-hmm.
So for joint tenants, there is no survivorship, where you are not able to pass down that ownership to anybody else. Whereas tenancy in common, you cannot have survivorship, but you can have it with joint tenancy.
So the big question that everyone asks, how much down payment do people need?
So for down payment, that's $1 million question, or zero dollar question, actually, because there's actually products out there for VA and physician loan where you can put down as little as 0%. However, you don't really see people doing that. It's because the lower your down payment, the higher the monthly payment would be. That also means higher your income has to be to qualify for 0% down, but $3 million home, right? So it's all like a balance. And I think most of the buyers that we work with, they have like usually at least 3% to 5% down as like a minimum. If you really only have like 3% down, but you don't have anything to pay for closing costs, normally what we will try to do is to help you find grants that can potentially help you increase that, ability to pay for closing costs. We actually recently had a buyer that qualified for $50,000 grant, and it was a huge help for him. And it's free. It's free money. If you stay in that home for 5 years, you do not need to pay back the grant. It's life-changing amount. Okay.
Wow. And what are some of the organizations that might offer such grants? And why haven't I heard about them?
Well, first of all, there is an income restriction. If you're making too much, congratulations, you don't need it. Also, will be impacted by the number of your people in your household as well.
I see.
So it became like, it's a whole chart of, algorithm that the loan officer will have to help you figure out. And those kind of program is always rotating. So that's why by the time you're ready to buy, good agents like us will know where to find you that loan. And we know a lot of lenders, so we know exactly who is offering what at what time. There's a lot of options, but I do want to circle back to the physician loan because it's very important to the audience that we are speaking to today. Physician loan, is based on which lender you're talking to. Not all the degrees can work for all the lenders. So some lender will say, I'll only lend it to MD. Certain doctors will qualify, but some physician loans will also include other different kind of doctors or even pharmacists. So there's a wide range of lenders that might give you a physician loan as long as they're willing to take you. Some lender might say you only need 680 as your credit score. Some lender might say I need 700. So it really is you need to rely on your realtor to help you find the right lender that can help you specifically for your needs. And a great thing about physician loan is that not only you can potentially put 0% down, there's also no PMI, which is a very huge thing. However,
did you define PMI?
Yeah, it's private mortgage insurance. And the reason why you need it is anytime when you don't have 20% down, the lender requires you to buy the insurance to protect their interest, not
case
yours.
You default.
Exactly. But with the physician loan, they will waive the PMI. However, physician loan also have a higher interest rate. So let's just say if you're like a third year in doctor who have your job already for a few years, and you always save up enough down payment, your best option might not be a physician loan. A regular conventional will probably give you a better rate. And there's also a difference between adjustable loan and fixed rate loan. Nowadays, we see a lot of people using adjustable loan. It's because it gives you a better rate. But it's also is a higher risk because you don't know if the percentage is going to flow up beyond 10% or are we really going back to 5%? So there's a certain risk. And that's why in 5 to 7 years, we're going to know if people are going to decide to sell because of the interest rate.